Whatever it was that brought me down, it brought me down hard and in a hurry. I have fallen, and like that pitiable older woman splayed at the foot of the staircase next to an upended laundry basket, I can't get up. I have a theory about pain. If an injury hurts immediately, I know for sure it's benign. But pain that intensifies after a few minutes is reporting real damage. And now, here comes the pain. Tiny transfer weight to my left summons two revelations. One, a sleeve of hurt rockets down my useless arm. And two, I realize that my cell phone is in my pocket. I slipped it into the back of my sweatpants before I came into the kitchen. Note to Skylar, it wasn't in my hand. My first instinct is to call Tracy, but she's 5 hours away in Martha's Vineyard, and I don't want to freak her out. Instead, I call my assistant Nina, who jumps in a taxi and is on her way within minutes. Oddly, I think of Jimmy Cagney, of all people. He once sent me a note on the first day of a new movie. Be on time, know your lines, and don't bump into the furniture. This morning I was on schedule, and I knew my 2 pages of dialogue, but the third point was a colossal fail. While I wait for Nina, I slump on the kitchen floor, pissed off, my misery multiplying exponentially. I try to make sense out of this shit show, but none of my all-purpose bromides and affirmations serve the moment. There's no spinning this. It's just pain and regret. There's no finding the positive and moving on to the next circumstance life has to offer. I feel something beyond frustration and anger, something akin to shame, embarrassment. Every day since the spinal cord surgery in April, everyone, doctors, family members, and friends, have repeated this message to me over and over. You have one job, don't fall. Yet here I am. This incident on the kitchen floor brings me down in more ways than one. It isn't just that I'm hurt. I've been hurt many times. I've been through a lot, suffered the slings and arrows. But for some reason, this just feels personal. Make lemons into lemonade? Screw it. I'm out of the lemonade business. Chapter 1. Family Man. Sam is the only one of our children born before my Parkinson's diagnosis. I'm sure he has no memories in that context. He probably wasn't even aware. I did the basic dad stuff. Caught frogs at the pond, tagged along to the Mommy and Me music classes with the Orff instruments and the super serious nannies. I tried to interest him in team sports, which was a no-go. Too much arguing. I showed Sam how to tie his shoes, using the rabbit method. One ear goes up, the other ear lassos that ear, slips under the loop and becomes the second ear. I taught him how to ride a bike, gently pushing from behind as he found confidence to press the pedals and gather speed. Now, on occasion, Sam pushes me in a wheelchair. On my end, no pedaling is required. When I rise carefully from the chair, my son often checks my laces before I take a step, and he's quick to tie them for me if needed. The only problem for my firstborn was a matter of timing. More consequential to his life than my still developing Parkinson's disease was another timeline. Sam was born 3 years before I gave up drinking, a sobriety that I still maintain. Too much of our father-child pre-K quality time was Miller time. He tells me that his earliest memories include going to the fridge to get me beers. I can't recall my drinking ever putting Sam or Tracy in jeopardy, but my alcohol was an evolving problem. I've been adamant that we have a child early in our marriage, very much fixated on the archetypal husband/father. Any space between those two was too big a space. To be a husband and not a father didn't make sense to me. I'm sure Tracy conveyed reluctance or hesitation, but I failed to read her true feelings and to understand how severely maternity would disrupt her ascending career. There were repercussions to these first few faulty steps. We found ourselves on infirm ground. I was engaged as a dad and I loved my son, but in some ways I was only going through the motions of being a dad. For a sanguine adult as Sam is now, his early childhood was fraught with challenges. He was colicky and unusually glum for a child that young. I was a little help. Plus I was drinking, and with news of my Parkinson's diagnosis, inner turmoil met outer tremulousness. Something I had to give. So, logically, my suggestion to Tracy was we have another child. She shook her head incredulous. Are you joking? Her resistance had little to do with any theretofore unproven concerns about hereditary Parkinson's disease or my ability to function as a potentially disabled parent. Instead, it had everything to do with my drinking and my state of mind, which at the point was in survival mode. I was often traveling for work, but my isolation on the road was no more profound than my growing sense of isolation at home. I felt marginalized in a way, not understanding that I was the instrument of that detachment. I was moody, confused about the status of our marriage, the direction of my career, and given my recent diagnosis, the future existence of a career at all. Finally, after one particularly nasty night of drinking, I woke to find Tracy standing over me as I slept on the couch.